Alright, hey everyone, it's Alex here with another CAD TA video. Today we'll be going over Professor Rothwell's very first CAD project that he has all of his students do. We'll be recreating this sketch in CAD. Hopefully you all have already done this sketch on paper. Um, and I think he has you submit it for an assignment. Today we'll actually be creating this in OnShape. If you haven't watched my previous CAD videos, make sure you go do that so you kind of understand the process, especially watch the second and the fourth video, since that's what we'll be going through and doing today. You can use any CAD program you want for this, so if you have a strong feeling towards one CAD program, feel free to use that if you're proficient, but I'll be demonstrating it through Onshape. Presuming you've already gone through my previous tutorials and you have your Onshape account, just head into OnShape. We're going to go ahead and create our part. So go up here to the left, hit Create Document, and name your part whatever you want. So I'm going to call it Rothwell Part 1, and hit Enter on your keyboard. So we're going to go ahead and start straight away. We're going to create our first sketch. So I'm going to hit the Sketch button. And I'm going to select the top plane. It doesn't really matter what plane you select. I just want to get a straight down view. So I'm going to hit the top plane. I'm going to go over here to my view cube, and I'm going to hit top. So I can look at it straight on. Alright, so there's many ways that you can create a sketch. There's a dozen ways to skin a cat when it comes to CAD. I'm going to be showing you all a kind of subtractive method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the overall shape and then slowly cut away pieces as I need. So what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at, okay, what's the overall size of this object? Well, the overall size is 8 inches by 6.5 inches, from what I could tell. So I'm going to come back here to the Part Studio. And one helpful trick that I'm going to do is on the drop-down menu up here by the rectangle, I'm going to hit the drop-down menu, and I'm going to hit Center Point Rectangle. That's just going to make my life a little bit easier. You can also press R on your keyboard. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on the center origin right here, and I'm just going to drag my mouse out. And I'm going to drag it out by some amount, doesn't really matter how much, and I'm going to left click. Now what it's automatically going to do is it's automatically going to prompt what do I want these dimensions to be. So without having to click on anything, if I type in, while my mouse is kind of hovered over this left side, if I type in 6.5, it will automatically enter that dimension. I can hit enter on my keyboard, and it's going to ask me what I want this bottom one to do if I zoom out, and that's supposed to be 8. So I'm just going to type in 8 on my keyboard, and I'm going to hit enter. Now if you weren't able to do that and you did not have a chance to enter your dimensions, you can again use the dimension tool as I demonstrated in episode 2, which is right up here. You can click on your dimension tool and you can dimension your part. If you over dimension your part, you're going to get these grayed out dimension lines. This gray part just means that your part's over dimensioned, and this doesn't really influence anything. Worse, you could get a red dimension, which means you've constrained it in a way that it's not allowed to move. So for example, if I try setting you as 7 inches, things will kind of go wrong. So make sure you only dimension the parts you need and the times it needs. So I'm going to double check 6.5 by 8. Awesome. So this is the sketch that I currently have. Now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start cutting out the parts that I do or do not need. So I'm going to start up here with this rectangle over here. From the top right corner, I want to cut out a 2-inch tall by 4-inch wide rectangle. So I'm going to go back over here to my studio. I'm going to come back over here to my rectangle. I'm going to hit the drop down menu again, and I'm going to hit corner rectangle. That's just going to make my life easier again. So I'm going to hit corner rectangle. And it has a different icon than the center point rectangle. Okay, bring my mouse over here to the upper right corner. I'm going to click on the upper right corner, and I'm going to drag my mouse out to some distance. Now, one thing to be careful of. Notice that if I drag my mouse over kind of towards this line, my mouse will automatically snap. And it's going to put this kind of dotted yellow line leading to the origin. This is OnShape's assumption that I want to anchor this bottom left corner of my rectangle that my mouse is at to the axis of the origin. And I might not want to do that. So you got to be very careful. If these dotted yellow lines pop up, that means it's automatically going to be constrained on that axis and you're not going to be able to place dimension. So I'm actually going to avoid that for right now. I don't want what it's going to do. So I'm just going to place down my corner right over there. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to come up to the dimension tool. I'm going to dimension. And I'm going to start dimensioning both those lines right here. So I'm going to dimension you, just left click on you. And I'm going to left click again. It's going to ask me what do I want. I want you to be 2 inches. Type that in my keyboard. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to dimension you as well. Left click, and you're going to be 4. Awesome. So now I have the overall shape, and I have this rectangle here in the upper right cut out. So next, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just kind of go in a counterclockwise fashion. I'm going to cut out this circle right here. So this is a 1-inch diameter circle where the center is 1.5 inches from the top and 2 inches from the left edge. Alright, easy enough. So I'm going to come back over here to OnShape. I'm going to hit the center tool, center point circle, click on that. And then somewhere approximately that looks like it'll go, I'll just left click, drag my mouse out a little bit, left click again. It's automatically going to prompt what do I want this the diameter of the circle to be. So I'm just going to hit 1 on my keyboard. Sorry, that was 2. 1 on my keyboard and hit enter. And that's automatically going to place down the dimension. That just saves me time from having to go back to the dimension tool and then click on the part and have to dimension it that way. So now we're going to click on the dimension tool, and I'm going to dimension between the circle and the edges. So I know from the center of the circle to the left edge is 2 inches. So I'm going to click the center of the circle, and click the left edge, and drag my mouse down a little bit, left click again to place the dimension, and type in 2. And again, I'm going to do the same thing with the top. Click, while the dimension tool is still highlighted, click the center of the circle, click the top of the rectangle, click to place down my dimension, and type in, that's supposed to be 1.5. Now, no promises that my sketch is actually correct. I'm reading this MS Paint document to the best of my abilities, but I might accidentally read something wrong. So if I do, I apologize in advance. Alright, so now we have this circle cut out. Let's continue around. Now let's cut out this little triangle. Basically, we're going to cut out a diagonal that's 1 inch by 1 inch. Now there's many ways to do this. As you notice, there's no triangle tool in OnShape, but there is a line tool. So I'm actually going to use the line tool right here. So I'm going to click, left click on the line tool. I'm going to come down here to the bottom left, and I'm going to place this approximately where I think it goes. As long as I am clicking on the line itself, on this left line, and it's highlighted in yellow, that's all we need to make sure of. So I'm going to left click on this line, bring my mouse down to the bottom, make sure I'm highlighting this bottom line now, and left click. And it's going to ask me to place down another line. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard. Cool, so now we have a line placed here, but we don't know what the dimensions of those lines are. So I'm going to go back up here to the dimension tool. I'm going to click, as you notice, there is a blue dot at the end of this line. There's one at each end. So I'm going to click on that blue dot, which is now, when I highlight it, it's yellow, as you might be able to see. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on this bottom dot, or the bottom edge, doesn't matter. I'm going to click on the bottom dot. And now it's asking me for what dimension I want between those two distances, those 2 points. Okay, left click to place it down. I want you to be 1 inch. I'm going to do the same thing over here with the bottom. Click on this bottom point. Click on this point over here. That didn't work for some reason. I'm going to click U. An entity cannot be dimensioned to itself. Sometimes OnShape glitches out. If it says this to you, just hit escape on your keyboard, exit out of that, and then try dimension again. So I'm going to hit the dimension tool. Okay, click on this point down here, click on this point over here, and there it goes. Now I'm going to type in 1. Alright, so now we have this rectangle cut out, this circle cut out. We don't have them cut out yet, but we've demonstrated them in a sketch. Now we have this little point cut out. Now we're going to cut out this semicircle. And the easiest way to cut out a semicircle is to just use the regular circle tool. So we're going to use a circle with a radius of 1.5 inches. That is, the center of that circle is 5 inches from the right side. Awesome. So we're going to come back to our sketch. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to come up here to the circle tool. I'm going to hover over the bottom line, and I'm just going to place my circle down here somewhere. Now, OnShape always does diameters. It does not do radii. So you have to do that math in your head. Obviously, very basic math, but you have to do it in your head, and you have to keep in mind the differences between your radii and your diameter. So I'm going to go ahead and place this down, and it's automatically going to prompt me what do I want my diameter to be, and I want it to be 2 times the radius, 1.5 times 2, or more properly 2 times 1.5, 2 times the radius. And so it's 3, clearly. So it automatically placed down a circle, but I could still move this circle wherever I want if it lets me. Yep, I can move it anywhere along this line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the dimension tool again. I'm going to dimension from the center of this circle, where you see there's a blue dot, to the rightmost edge of the rectangle, and I'm going to type in 5. So when I end up extruding this, I basically already have a semicircle removed from that part. There's all this circular stuff over here, but that doesn't really matter. If I really wanted to, I could actually trim that stuff away. If I come up here to the trim tool, if I hit the trim tool and I click on this lower part, I can actually just get rid of that if I don't want to see it. But it won't end up affecting anything anyways. You don't have to trim it, but it sometimes helps make your sketches look nicer. Alright, so looking back at this, the last thing I need to do is I need to add a little circle down here to the bottom right. So it is a 1/2 inch diameter circle that is 2 inches from the bottom and 1.5 inches from the right. So you all should know how to do this by now. Again, center point circle, place it over here. As soon as I left click, I type in 0.5 on my keyboard, hit enter. You come up here to the dimension tool. You click on the center of this circle, click on the right side. Now notice how as soon as I started that dimension, I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard and show you that dimension again. I'm going to dimension the center to the right side. Notice how my, for a very brief second, my dimension was actually slanted. You have to be very careful about that sometimes. You have to make sure you're dimensioning on the right axis. Because if you're the arrows between your dimensions are actually slanted, like if I hit escape on my keyboard and I dimension between U and U, that's obviously not right. If I'm trying to dimension 2 inches from the right side, I need my dimension to look like this, not like this. And depending on where your mouse is, as you see I'm just moving my mouse around, OnShape will automatically snap to these different dimensions, which may or may not be what I want. So you got to be very careful with that sometimes. So again, just hit my dimension tool, hit the center of this circle, hit the right side of the rectangle, make sure that my dimension's on the right axis, and type in, what is this, 1.5. One last time, make sure dimension's highlighted, click down here, click the center of my circle, click the bottom of the rectangle, place down my dimension, type in the correct number, which is 2. Double check that, 2, 1.5, 1.5. Alright, everything looks great. So it looks like I have all of the pieces I need. I'm going to go ahead and save the sketch. And as you see, I have my sketch there on that work plane. Now I could go ahead and extrude the part. So I'm going to go up here to the extrude button, which is right next to the sketch. And I am going to click somewhere in the middle of this sketch. If you notice, that will automatically um, only extrude the parts that are in that closed system. So if anything is closed off, like how these circles are completely closed off from the rest of the sketch, it will not extrude those parts. So it is a very quick and easy way to cut out pieces is by um, including them in your original sketch and getting rid of them all in one extrusion. Now, this is supposed to be 3/4 inch pine, so it automatically results to 1 inch in depth when you start your extrusion, so make sure you change that to 3/4 inch, and then hit OK. Awesome. So there we have our part, and we want it to be pine, so we can actually change the appearance of our piece in OnShape. We can't quite do it as though we were making our part in Fusion 360, where you can actually get some nice textures over it. But if you come down here to your part and you right click on it, you can edit appearance, and you could change it to whatever color you want. So I'm going to change it to something that looks kind of like pine, maybe this kind of darkish brown. Yeah, that looks good. I believe OnShape, if you mess around with the tools, if you have the educational account, they do actually have a shader option. So if you maybe want some extra credit, you can go into their app store and look for the different shaders and see if you can actually add a pine skin to this. But this is good enough for this course. Just make sure you have it colored. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can also right click on your part. You go to assign material. And if you search through the materials, we might be able to find some sort of wood. Poplar, redwood. There's no pine? What are you doing OnShape? Out of all the types of wood you can have, you have elm, you have Douglas fir, you have cedar, but you don't have pine. Let's go with birch. I like birch. And I could just send my material to that. That doesn't really affect anything other than some of the physical properties of this. All right. So there you have it. There's your part with all the correct dimensions. If you have to create a drawing, I'm going to show you how to do the drawing. I'm going to be completely honest. I do not know if you have created a drawing for this part, but I might as well demonstrate it in case you do. You're going to come down here to the bottom left where you see this plus icon. Hit the plus icon, and you're going to hit create drawing. You're going to get a bunch of options. I always choose ANSI D inch. This one right here. I'm just going to hit OK. Okay, wait for that pop up. You see you have a new drawing tab down here in the bottom left. It's automatically going to ask me to select a part or an assembly. I'm going to select this one part that I created. And it's automatically going to try and place down the part in front of me. Now, one very important thing. Because I placed down the part on the top plane, since this is looking at a front view orientation, it is looking at the part not like this, but like this. And we obviously don't want to look at the part from this face. So if you did what I did and you use that kind of top plane to create your sketch, you're going to have to go up here to view orientation and select top. And you give it a second to load. And there it is. And I'm going to create my view scale slightly larger. I say 1 to 2, maybe? No. 2 to 1. Good enough. 2 to 1. Place that down right there in the middle. And I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard. So there's my part. I could lay out all of the dimensions I need using the dimension tool, which is right here. So I could demonstrate that, from this left side to the right side is exactly 8 inches. I could click up here on the top, down here on the bottom, pull my mouse over here to the left click again, demonstrates that 6.5. If I left click on this circle, That demonstrates that you are 1 inch. I could left click on the circle and this left side, and that will demonstrate that that is 2 inches. And I could just go through here and add all the dimensions in the world that I need. I'll just place you there, you there. You all kind of get the gist of what I'm doing, right? You just want to go through and place all dimensions that you reasonably need to demonstrate that the part is correct. All of the dimensions that you see Mr. Rothwell do on here, you want to include in your drawing. And I just messed that dimension up right there, so I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard. Come back over here. You to you. I'm just going to add the rest of these in as needed, so I could be a perfectionist, a completionist. And if Mr. Rothwell wants the 3-view drawings, this is only a 1-view drawing. You could also do 3 or 4-view drawings. I demonstrate how to do that in episode 4 of my CAD tutorial series. So make sure you go through and review that. So in the end, this is the final drawing that you have. I just went through and dimensioned everything that Mr. Rothwell has dimensioned over here. Though I did not demonstrate a side view that does have it as a 3/4 inch spine. If you need to do that, you could go watch again my episode 4 on drawings and learn how to do that. Just make sure the final thing you do before you finish this is make sure your name's down here in the bottom left, and make sure you give this thing a proper title. So CAD Assignment, I spelled assignment wrong, 1, and then probably put, Rothwell Engineering 107. And then you're good to go. I don't even know if you guys needed to do the drawings, but if you did, there's the drawing. If not, you could just submit a picture of your completed part. If you need to submit the drawing, you just export the drawing by down here in the bottom left. Right click on the drawing tab and hit export, and you can save it as a PDF. And that will take a few seconds to download. So hopefully that covers all the bases. Now you all can quickly and easily get through with your first CAD assignment. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. All of my information is back in episode 1. You can also find it on Blackboard. Feel free to schedule office hours with me. And yeah, I hope to see you all soon.